Sorry about that, just had a slight issue there, so I had to stop streaming for a bit. But yeah, I ended up fixing this. I apologize again for going off so abruptly and not really saying much, but I had to take down the last video because accidentally showed some of my information that I shouldn't have shown. So I had to take down the video immediately. Hope you all understand. So anyway, I ended up getting the script working, and so now what we need to do is just basically link up the API in the front end. So right now, we have our DMs page and the DMs section. And yeah, so right now it does that, but we want the DM list. So now we need to actually get some followers using our API. So let's add a, what should we call it, get recent followers. Yeah, I mean, that works. And we don't need to pass anything, actually. And we're just going to call this, we're going to take this into our DMs API and call it followers. Not get URI. Okay. So get recent followers is what we want. So we're going to update this to be get recent followers. Don't need to pass anything, like I said before. Sorry, I just copy and pasted this from previous code base. Not code base, sorry. It was actually from the engagement section. I just took it from there. So we set our recent followers, and now what we need to do so now what we need to do is, instead of followers, we need to pass in recent followers. And let's remove that, clean up our imports. Okay. So that should work, actually, now that I'm thinking about this. Let's check it out. And okay, so let's refresh. One new follower, DM section. Okay, something's going wrong. Oh, we haven't set up the API yet, of course. So let's go and set up our API. So we want it to be DMs followers, and we go to our API. So we have our DMs just to send a DM, but we want followers. And all we really need to do here is take the user ID and get that from our recent followers. Check out our schema, recent followers, grab the user ID. Yeah. And so let's just add that here. Recent followers. Let's go to our recent followers. And we're just going to find all of them that have not been acknowledged. So that's one key. I keep forgetting how you spell acknowledged. Okay, here. Acknowledged, and then we want that to be false. Okay. And that's fine. Don't need this. Okay, so that's good. Don't need this either. And all we really want to do is just return our followers. That should do it. Okay. So now we need to go back to the DM section, make sure we're parsing that correctly. Okay, blah, 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 looks good. Oh, we need to reset our API. Looks like we're still getting 404. So DM's followers, it's giving us a 404. Let me make sure that this API is correct. API DM's followers. Looks good. Maybe this is a post, yeah. Okay, let's try that. Cool. And here are my recent followers. And then now I can either remove it, like add a quick intro message if needed, and that's pretty much it. And then send it, obviously. Let's just make sure that our send is linked up properly. Let me remove this. Just gonna output our DM text just to show that it's sent. Okay, and this is DM send. Then we have a user ID, and we have our text. And that will be send. And then we're going to post this. We need a body. And we can pass our user ID. Let's see what our API is expecting. Recipient ID. Okay, that's what I made it. And then our text. And I'm going to change that to text because I don't need to specify that it's DM text. Oops. Okay. Oh, and something else we want to do here is go to our recent followers. Hello. Okay, so recent followers, we want to set our acknowledged, so we want to find one and update. So we're going to set this with our ID to be recipient ID. Okay, and we also are going to need the document ID. So that's something we need to set in the body as well. ID, or let's call it notification ID. And we'll set that here. And what we want to do is add that here as well. Okay, cool. So now that we have that, we want to take the notification ID. Let's see if we have any examples of this. So that, update there, and all we want to do is just add or update there. So find one and update, and then we're going to add an update here which has acknowledged to be true. That's pretty much all we need. Okay, that looks good. So now that we have that and this, we also need an ignore API. So DMs, followers, ignore. And we want to pass in just our doc ID. Notification. There we go. Okay, so now we want to make sure that we're calling that when the user would like to do that. And we can do that around somewhere here. Okay, yeah, so we need to add a new method called ignore DM notification. And we're just gonna call that actually we'll only do a catch because we'll just handle the actual action on the UI, and so we don't need to load or anything like that. And then we'll alert saying that something went wrong, ... plus error message, error.message. And we will call that around here. Don't want to pass this in. We're just going to use the information from here. I believe there should be a follower.id that we can use. And that should do it. And now we want to add the DM part. So let's add that. Ignore, get recent followers, send DM. Let's put this up here just for organization, and ignore down here. Okay, and then we have send DM to user, and we want that, and we also want the follower.id, which is the recipient ID, and then we also want the text, which will be our DM text right here. And this one we do want to handle the successful state, so we want to make sure the loading stops. And we want to update the DM text. We can also just make an acknowledged. I keep forgetting how to spell acknowledged. Acknowledge is one of my words I just can't seem to get. And so we're defaulting to false, and then when they do this, then we're going to say that they have acknowledged. Set acknowledged to true. And we're actually also going to want to do the same thing for our ignore, because we don't need to do loading, because it is acknowledged if we ignore, just so that it won't show up there. Okay, don't need this. So loading. Don't need this. How about we do, instead of acknowledge, we do ignored. So then that way we can render the right message. And then maybe we do sent DM. Set sent DM. False, and then set ignored. And that will probably give us better results. Ignored. And so in that way we can just make this card disappear and then ensure that so we can make the card disappear and then render the right, like, oh yeah, your message was ignored. And so let's add that actually now. So what we want to do is remove this part. I think it's up to here. Maybe a little bit more. So let's undo that. I want to do it. So here up to here. Okay, we want to make sure that this, oh, okay, so actually we can just do this whole middle section. So I just want to make sure that the width was staying the same. And then we want to go, if it's not, there isn't a DM sent, and or actually, if it's not ignored either, no, we want both of these actually. Then we render this. Maybe we need to wrap this in a fragment in order to get that to render. That's exactly what it was. And then we want to go, okay, we need two more. And we want, okay, if it's ignored, we want a certain message, and if the DM has been sent, then we want another message. And we can just put that in a box. Successfully. Oh. Ignored DM notification. Okay, and that should be good. So we want to now just update our, I am building, sorry, I'm just going to address the comment. I am building a tweet or Twitter engagement tool. So right now working on the DM section, so people can send DMs based on, you know, like the new followers that they get. But there's a little bit more to it than that. You can also queue tweets, and you can also engage with popular tweets. It's basically what it is in a nutshell. And then, so the next part we want is to check out our API. And we want to, so whenever we do this, then it does that. And we also want the DMs ignore. That's one thing we don't have. And what were we going to build? Yeah, let's just do DMs ignore like that. So we have a send, we have an ignore. The ignore will just take that and ignore it. And that's it. Okay. And so I just want to double check that we're not actually going to send this DM. First, let's do this. So we get a 404. DM's followers ignored. I didn't click save here. Okay, ignored. Let's go back to the card and let's center this text. And let's make the width 100% of its parent. 100%. Let's actually do this rendering inside of this. No, never mind. I think I'm fine. Text align, and then let's make it the center. And we'll do the same thing up here. Cool. Ignore DM. Hey. And let's send it. Perfect. And then when we refresh, it shouldn't show up. Perfect. All right. And I think we're going to stop there. But thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate it. But that was it for today. I will see you all in the next one.